No, I had it.
Okay, guys, took a little bit longer than 5 minutes. Should we get stuck into the final stretch? Sorry to interrupt your conversation. It's good for all networking, chatting. We've got plenty of time afterwards as well. So we'll try and keep this short and sweet and relevant and practical. Okay. So how do we stay protected? We've looked at lots of the problems, the risks, cyber. Now let's see what we can actually do about it. So, as Mark's mentioned, there's plenty of advice online already. The National Cybersecurity Centre, part of GCHQ, is a great resource. Some links here. In the small business section, there are whole guides, including a PDF guide to small businesses and what you can do. I'd recommend going to download that, or feel free to connect with me or Mark after, and we can send you a copy of that. Okay. So let's just go through these risks again and how we can mitigate and protect ourselves against them. So passwords. There are different ways we can secure our passwords. Obviously not using the incredibly easy to guess ones, but there are some recommended guidelines, not essential, but there's different techniques we can use. A longer password, generally better. Combination of letters, numbers, and special symbols, if allowed. Reason being that if you use dictionary words, then you're more likely to be able to get hacked, because hackers can use the dictionary to do a dictionary attack, go through all the words in the dictionary and test whether one of those is your password. Use upper and lower case letters, so mix it up. And a long nonsense phrase is kind of potentially a good option for a password, in that it's nice and long. Definitely not a dictionary, something that will be in the dictionary as a whole sentence. And arguably, if you pick the right random words, it'll be easier for you to remember. You just remember 5 words. You can also use third-party password management systems like LastPass, but make sure you keep that account secure. Yeah.
And don't forget your master password.
Yeah, don't forget your master password. And systems like that, LastPass. So I use LastPass for some of my stuff. It can also automate, if you're registering for a new website, it will automatically generate a nice long random password for you that you will never need to remember, because it stores it for you. You can use that feature. I personally don't. It's up to you. But yeah, if you're going to use something like that, just make sure it is all supposedly encrypted. So even if their system's got hacked, likely it's going to happen, right? Your data is still encrypted. It's your master password that decrypts your information. So don't lose that. If you lose that, then your data's lost, which is the whole point of the security. And use two-factor authentication where possible. Do we know what two-factor authentication is? So one-factor authentication is we have one password. Two-factor, so we have another element.
It's the bank's type of...
Yeah, so banks, for a long time, they've used maybe a little fob where they generate another code. I think text messages, get a text with a code.
Yeah.
So even if you lose your password, you're still protected. That's what that means.
Something you know, something you have, something you are.
Yeah, nice.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Back on that one, the other recommendation is also not to use the same password in multiple places.
Yeah, which I admit I'm guilty of.
I was till I got a password manager.
Yeah. So do you use random? Do you let it generate random passwords?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes, yeah. So
I use 3 random words.
Cool.
So like.
Don't give too much away.
No, just really random.
Yeah. Nice. So it's the best practices. Yeah, it is good to spread your passwords. Don't use the same password in the same system. That means if you get pwned, then you haven't just given access to all the other systems.
More important, have basic
strong password.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So, and in the back of my mind, I kind of do that automatically. So if it's a low risk kind of website, just like for content, I have to sign up. I'll use my go-to rubbish already pwned password because I just don't care, and I want it easy to remember. Although if I was using a password manager, then that would get rid of that problem and probably be better. But
And more than 12 characters. If you really want it to 20, 30, 40 characters.
yeah.
I can brute force 12 characters.
Yeah, and then until when quantum computing comes along, then we're all doomed. We won't talk about that. So two-factor authentication, came across this recently. When you pay by card online, you may have verified by Visa, for example. Looks like they've been saying this for a long time that they're going to switch to mobile, send you like effectively almost like two-factor authentication for your online payments. Been saying this for ages. Actual user text.
Yeah.
So that's a good example of that. It's not necessarily logging in, but it's protecting your payment details. So unknown Wi-Fi. Well, how can we get around that? Well, you could just not use it. You could use your 3G or 4G mobile network instead. So, which also includes tethering. So if you want to get online on your laptop, you tether to your mobile connection. Because then all your traffic is going through, well, your mobile provider, but at least it's not being scattered all around you on a public Wi-Fi. Or you can use a VPN, virtual private network, to effectively encrypt your connection, so you tunnel out through the public Wi-Fi, and that protects all your communications. But only use VPNs provided by reputable service providers, because what you're doing with a VPN, you are passing all your traffic through them. So it doesn't just automatically protect you. If they are not reputable or they want to take advantage, they can look at all your traffic and do whatever they want with that. So an example of ours, so a lot of the antivirus companies will maybe offer VPN services, which are sort of quite useful, and they'll encrypt your connection. One behavior you might notice when you're on public Wi-Fi and you try and access something like YouTube, for example, sometimes if it can't encrypt it, you won't be able to play the videos, or it won't load YouTube. Then if you then go on a VPN and encrypt it, then you will be able to play the YouTube videos. That's just one thing I've noticed, a kind of a practical, that's how you kind of know something different is kind of happening, for those maybe less technical. So avoiding identity theft, so beware of phishing attacks, entering personal information where you don't really know where it's going. Shred papers containing important information before throwing them in the trash. For example earlier, list of master passwords in rubbish bin in a public area.
Yeah, doing that one.
Yeah. Protect your computer and smartphones with passwords. Yeah. So most of our smartphones now will have a combination of either PIN, password, or face or fingerprint recognition. It's good to use those. Not leaving your phone completely unlocked. Just think of everything that you've got access to on your phone, your social accounts, email, for example. If you leave it unlocked, somebody just picks it up. Or if you lose it, or it gets stolen, kind of just give them access to your life. Keep all of your confidential documents locked. Well, it's not necessarily cyber, it's practice. Reminds me I need to move mine from under my bed. But avoiding malware, so use antivirus and keep it up to date. Okay, so just downloading it once. Yep.
Sorry, I do run a cybersecurity company.
Okay, cool.
Sorry,
yeah, no, go for it.
It's not necessarily a good move to go for the free antivirus.
Yeah.
Better to pay for it,
Yeah, that was
because
just about to ask.
you don't get full functionality in the free version.
They hardly pick anything up anyway. scan and say nothing found.
Yeah, which is normally, you hope, a good thing. So yeah, so it's a good point. Free antivirus, it's not always great. What you're paying for, you have to remember, is actually in these big companies, you know, McAfee, Avast, there are teams of people. They're kind of keeping up to date with the latest threats and making sure their software is up to date and making sure you're protected. So it's not snake oil; it's worth paying for.
If you have sign up Office 365,
Yeah.
you'll get
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. So we'll talk very briefly about cloud as well. Wear a machine and avoid clicking on flashy adverts while browsing the internet. Okay. So wiping our mobile laptop data. So that's when, if we get rid of an old phone, or we need to wipe it, or ideally encrypt it, don't wipe it. Often, most smartphones now they have encryption switched on, but you'll need to kind of check that. The idea of encrypting first and then wiping is that if you just wipe, the data is all still there and it's recoverable. It's just been marked as deleted, but somebody who knows what they're doing could recover that data. So by encrypting it first, you're effectively kind of scrambling it, so it's retrievable. Yeah, and don't forget the cloud. So who here uses like Office 365? Yeah. Google. Yeah, everyone uses Google. Yeah. There are other platforms as well. So cloud is great. It's friendly, shiny, solves lots of problems. It's good for us, but we want to keep secure, right? So this is just a screenshot from Google. Has a nice page where you can actually go through a security check. So if you have a Google account, actually it's not just for your Google account, but best practice for other areas as well. There's a link here. If you search for Google security checkup, there's a nice checklist you can work through. That's recommended, especially if you do use Google for business purposes. The same with Office 365. All the same rules apply. You know, strengthening your passwords using two-factor authentication. Keep your account. Because think, if you do rely on Office 365, for example, chances are you've got all your email on there, your documents, your whole business, right? So you need to protect that. Here is just a handout or one-page kind of PDF again from ncsc.gov.uk. Again, if you wanted to connect, and I can send you a copy of that if you can't find it online yourself. But it nicely goes through some all of the kind of things you really need to look at, okay, practically, how to mitigate against these problems. And really, to kind of protect yourself, you've got to get a little bit organized. You've actually got to go through these checks, because the problem is you're only as good as your weakest link, your weakest part. So even as individuals, if we've secured loads of aspects of our digital life, if we've got one aspect that could actually unlock them all, then there's been no point. So there's a really good kind of checklist, again, from NCSC that goes through a load of actions that you could print out and even physically tick. Yeah, you can use that as almost like an informal, personal security audit. And if you don't understand what some of them mean, then you can talk to somebody that knows. There's several in the room that are more experienced than me, or do research. And if you don't understand what it means, then that's probably, if you're running a business, then you need to go and find out or get assistance. Again, if you can't dig that out, I'm happy to send you a copy. And just wrapping up, this is a kind of salesy bit from Buxton Uni, some from Buxton Uni. We do, may or may not be relevant, but we offer professional postgrad and apprenticeship courses and there are some cybersecurity courses running from later this year. So if you're interested in it as a sort of personally, or just getting qualified, there's a 1-year master's cybersecurity running from September, and there's also funding available through a loan. And if anybody within the larger businesses, the apprenticeship scheme as well, which Alex has more information on, we're kind of looking to sort of apply this to cyber as well. So if anyone within an organisation needs to get skilled up, so that the overall organisation can get protected. Okay. Otherwise, that's it for now. Thank you very much for your attention.